Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Hard Claim with Viva La Sam. I'm Sam, and this is a show where we talk to people who play Blood on the Clocktower and get their player perspective of the game. Joining us for this week's episode is MacKay. Thank you for joining.
Hi, Sam. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right.
Great. So we do like to start with what we call our opening hard claim question. You picked Liaz Unfair. I probably butchered that spelling.
Laissez-en-faire.
There you go. This is the first time somebody's chosen to do a Teensyville, so I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So as we often do, I've picked out characters. We've sent characters out. You drew the balloonist token.
Mm-hmm.
And not that this really matters, but let's say during the night I would have showed you seat 2.
Okay.
So with that said, if we were talking, right on day one, what would you claim?
I mean, so here's the thing about laissez-en-faire. Part of why I like the script is because Goblin's on this script, and I would be claiming Goblin. It doesn't matter what token I pulled. I would claim Goblin. Probably I would give some 3s, though, before I were in Town Square. But in Town Square, no, you know what? I would just claim Goblin.
All right. Who would you go to your ping first and claim Goblin, or would you go to somebody else?
I would not go to my ping first, probably, especially considering you gave me someone who's next to me. As a player, I tend not to talk to the players on either side of me on day one, because worst case, I can send them a whisper later on. So unless I'm like the washerwoman or high priestess who's been sent to talk to them, probably I'm going to hold off and talk to them later. But especially with balloonist, like, one ping, your first day ping isn't that useful, and
Right.
just kind of want to stay alive. And also, I don't know if people know this, but it's almost a meme that I pull the Goblin token. So people do tend to believe to some degree that I am the Goblin.
Lovely.
It's right there.
Yep.
There it is.
Right in the pronouns.
Right in the pronouns.
Since we're talking about balloonist, the balloonist ability did change somewhat recently. How do you feel about that in general, and how do you feel about that as it fits on this particular script?
So personally, I didn't love the fact that they changed how it modified outsider count. Um, I think outsider count is very important for like solving worlds in games and getting information in games. And the way the balloonist's outsider count changed the way it impacts your ability to determine the number of outsiders in a game. But also that's the point. So I do think they made the balloonist's ability more powerful, because at least your one day of poisoning doesn't ruin everything for you. And so to balance out improving the actual ability, they decreased its ability to solve the game via outsider count. So I don't know. I haven't actually played as the new balloonist at all yet, and I keep forgetting that the ability changed. I actually played Laissez-en-Faire. I played at Clocktower Con in Vegas, and I'd forgotten that the balloonist had changed and had to rebuild worlds in my mind.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. So talking about Blood on the Clocktower, when and how did you discover the game?
So I discovered every year for 10 years, I went on the Joko cruise. I don't know if you're familiar. It's Jonathan Coulton. Jonathan Coulton is the comedy musician who wrote the finale song for Portal. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you were familiar, but if anyone isn't familiar, his music is like, it's a pretty good mix of comedy, nerd, and just like sad emo guy. And so if that combo sounds good, you should check him out. But part of the Joko cruise is that there's this rich culture of anyone can run an event. And so I used to go to Dragon Con in Atlanta. And when I went to Dragon Con in Atlanta, my favorite thing was the late night Are You a Werewolf games. And so I would go play Are You a Werewolf? And so I was on Joko Cruise, and my friend Day decided, I had not met them yet, but they were running Blood on the Clocktower late nights on the cruise. And I was like, well, I'll go. I'll play one. I used to love Are You a Werewolf? I haven't played in most of a decade at this point, but I love these kinds of games. I'll go see how it goes. And then it became one of the big staples for me. Like not this last year, but the year before on the cruise, I think I spent about 20 hours of my cruise playing Blood on the Clocktower
Wow.
over the course of a week. So it'd be like 3 to 4 hours a night, every night. Yeah, it's pretty great. Yeah, it's fun.
That's fun. Do you remember what the very first games were like for you?
So I remember the people, but I don't remember the games because it was all people I knew. And so there was that element of like, these are people I know, these are people I like to hang out with, or like maybe these are some people I have some weird feelings about, but we won't get into that. But it was late at night, it was very chaotic. It was a lot of information to hold in your brain. Like at this point, so there, I do remember a certain amount of the standard Clocktower progression, or what I like to think of as the standard Clocktower progression, which is, oh, this is so fun. I'm going to play Trouble Brewing. There's so much information to hold on to. I can't remember all the characters. Okay, I've mastered all the characters in Trouble Brewing. I'm ready to branch out to another script and play some crazy stuff because I am now an expert Clocktower player. I'm too expert for Trouble Brewing. Wait a minute, actually Trouble Brewing's the best script. Let's go back to that. So that's what I remember my first week of Clocktower being. Trouble Brewing is a lot. Okay, I've mastered Trouble Brewing. Time to play an atheist game. You know what? Maybe let's just play Trouble Brewing. Yeah.
And what would you say hooked you about the game that made you want to play over and over on that cruise, and then ever since?
I'm sorry about my camera, by the way. I can see it's having a little panic attack.
It's fine.
Deep breath, calm down. I like the replayability of it. So there's no point at which you're going to play the same game twice. You're playing with different people approach it differently. It's always going to be a different game every time, despite the rules being the same. And especially with the people I play with, we don't tend to be big solvers. It's fun to solve a game. It's fun to be the person who solved the game, but it's more fun to try something you've never tried before and do something really wacky and silly and out there. And I don't know, be a balloonist who claims goblin just because you claim goblin. And then no one ever knows if you're actually the goblin claiming goblin or if you're just the townsfolk playing as a goblin, you know? And so that ability to just do something completely out there and unexpected and not worry about the solve and just try to make sure everyone's having a good time, both from a game perspective and also just from like a social hanging out with people perspective, is more important to me than winning.
Yeah, and I always felt like the rule book and just the game culture in general really pushes for that.
Yeah,
Like
I would rather play in a game where I pretend to be evil twins with someone, even though there's no evil twins in the game, and we confuse people and we end up losing, than like getting really intense about hard claiming and then being upset that people don't believe my hard claim. Like, it's more fun to have fun than to win for me. I would rather have a good time and lose than have a bad time and win, I guess. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Winning is
I
the least
think that makes
important.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How long was it before you started playing online?
So I didn't even, it was probably, so the way I started playing is that I would go on this cruise for a week, and over the course of a week for like, I think 3 years, I would play this game on the cruise. And I came back from a cruise and I started playing text games in the Five of Swords server. And I personally, I don't love text games. I
I feel
am,
that.
I'm an extrovert. I'm a person with extreme facial recognition. So a lot of my friends are the kind of people who are like, I can't remember that celebrity. I'm the kind of person who's like, I remember that celebrity. They were in this, 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 and this. Like, faces are just a core part of communication for me, and being able to see people's faces. It's not just that it's easier to read people, it's also that it's easier to read if people are having a good time and being playful and having fun, and if they're like happy and content. Whereas in text, everything reads like very strict, very tense to me. So I played a bunch of text games. I had fun sometimes, and sometimes like things felt like people weren't having as good of a time as I wanted. And then finally, I was introduced to the app. Um, and the second I started playing in the app with cameras on, I was just like, this is so much better. Um, and so I think that was 2 or 3 years ago at this point. I'm trying to remember. I know it was in an April. So it was in an April because it was about a month after I'd played on the cruise. And I was like, this year I'm going to play not just on the cruise, I'm going to play all the time. So it was either 2 or 3 years ago. It was either April before last or the April before that. But I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. I just have to go back through my YouTube appearances to see where I first appeared.
Yeah, and I relate to all that just a little bit because so our online group started with Zoom, and so we had cameras and it was very clunky, but it was still fun. And then when the app came out, we jumped on it, or at least I jumped on it as soon as I possibly could, which was immediately. Playing through Discord, which a lot of groups, the unofficial still does. That just never really worked well for me, and it felt like I don't know. It felt harder to actually be engaged, I guess.
I had a vision for how I would run it in Discord. So the way that a lot of the Discord people run it via text is sort of this asynchronous, you send messages and when people respond. And I had a vision of another way of running it, which would be an entire server dedicated to like one game at a time. Because, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent,
That's
but I've
fine.
had this thought before and I still kind of want to try it at some point. So it would be text based, but live would be the concept.
Mm-hmm.
And it would involve self roles. So you would be able to click on a link to change your role, and the role that you would have would allow you access to town square and one other room in Discord. You would not have access to any message history. You would only be able to see messages as you enter the room. And anytime you change your role, you would lose access to one chat and gain access to another chat. So it would have an element of like, we're in the potion shop right now. We would be able to, enter the potion shop and you'd be able to chat with anyone who's in the potion shop. But then if you clicked into the tower role, you'd only be able to see the people in the tower. And
Right.
so it has some of that element of moving dynamically through live conversations that you get in real life, which I think it would be an interesting, different way to run it. It would still be text, so you wouldn't get the faces, but I do think
Right.
there's something interesting to that, especially for people who maybe struggle a little bit more with the faces and like the talking and are more comfortable for texting. I don't know. It would be an interesting concept to see how it runs that way. Yeah.
I think live text games would be probably a little more interesting to me, at least. I know the unofficial does them at least sometimes. I don't know how often. I think they probably still use private threads for private discussions though. But I think for the long form text games, I tried one or two, and basically, so when you're playing Clocktower normally, it's 1 hour, 2 hour game. You're done, and then you move on.
Oh yeah.
That level of paranoia that you kind of get in a 1 to 2 hour game stretched across a week and a half does not work well for me.
You know what it reminds me of? This is like this. We're branching out into the deep lore at this point, but what it reminds me of is my junior year of college when I was playing Vampire the Masquerade LARP. And so I enjoyed the Vampire the Masquerade LARP in that I would go to one evening, and for that evening, it would be a LARP. What I didn't enjoy about the Vampire the Masquerade LARP is that all of my friends who also played would continue it like it was a once a month you would meet up and play, right? But not for them. It was every day for them. They would like meet up in private in their rooms to make plots for taking out the prince in Vampire the Masquerade. I'd like walk into a friend's room and they'd all look up and look really guilty. And I would recognize immediately that they were having an in character conversation for Vampire the Masquerade. And finally, I was just like, I don't think I can keep playing this game because this, like, I was on board for one evening a month. I was not on board for random entry into conversations where people are playing at like 11:30 in the morning on a Sunday. I can't. Yeah.
But yeah. All right. So let's say when you sit down for a game of Blood on the Clocktower, online or in person, what are you thinking before you draw a token? Are you like looking at the character sheet? Or are you just kind of hanging out?
I definitely so I like playing on the official app, partly because I like having a notepad document, because I am a scatterbrained human who forgets what I tell people. So having a record of what I've told people is very important for me personally. But I am the person who, in that first night phase, looks at my token and says, okay, this is my token. What are my 3 gonna be? What are my 2 gonna be? And what is my game plan as I go into the first day? So I played a game last week where I was the summoner. I was the summoner who the night watchman, who was Nina, actually. Nina, the white night watchman, had revealed herself to me in the night. And I was like, this is great. I am going to, I have a hard claim, and my hard claim is bounty hunter. So I can go immediately to Nina. We can establish trust. I can tell her I'm the bounty hunter and who my first ping is. Everything is going to go off without a hitch. It's going to be beautiful. Immediately claim to Nina, tell her who's evil. Turns out the evil person is the golem. Golem gets confirmed immediately. And we were just screwed from that point on. But going into it, it was a great plan. So I always have that level of a plan going into things. Right. Although sometimes my plan is I'm going to claim Goblin and just be a gremlin this game, and whatever happens, happens. But I definitely always have a plan. If that plan is going to go well or not, no, hard to say. But it's easier for me to go into it with a plan and like an outline of what kind of game I'm going to play. Because there have been times where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go into this and I'm going to hard claim to everyone that I'm the Tinker. Because I am the Tinker. I'm just going to hard claim the Tinker nonstop. That's great. Let's go for it. But having a game plan that I've written down helps me. It helps me know what kind of game I'm playing today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's fun to mix it up. Sometimes I'll hard claim my real roll. Sometimes I'll hard claim a fake roll. Sometimes I'll just give a nothing but 2 for 2s. Yeah. I get that. I like mixing up quite a bit.
And like you pull the Ravenkeeper token, you're like, I'm not going to tell anyone I'm Ravenkeeper. I'm going to tell them 3 lies. Or maybe then after you've been the Ravenkeeper who gives 3 lies over and over again, you start hard claiming Ravenkeeper, because who would believe you when you hard claim Ravenkeeper? And sometimes you do something really stupid where you claim Pixie Empath as the Ravenkeeper just by claiming Empath hard claim. And then it turns out there's already a Pixie and an Empath and a Pixie Empath. But you know what? That's the fun of the game, is you never know what other people are doing either. Right. Yeah. And if you do stuff like that, if you come into things with a plan that's just like kooky and stupid, and you do it enough times, you start playing with people, they're like, I don't know what they're doing. They're probably not evil though. They're probably just doing something, and we'll all find out together, you know?
Yeah. All right, so when you do draw a token, do you prefer that it's blue or red?
I like to be evil. I think it's very fun. So they're different games. So when you are evil, you know a little bit of what's going on, right? You know who the demon is. You know who the minions are, probably, unless it's Poppy Grower or there's a magician. But you enter a game with information, And your goal when you are playing as evil is to hide that information. That's the way I generally think of it. When I am evil, it's my goal to make sure that good does not gain access to the information. And so I want to generally sow confusion among the good players. I want to make them think things are bad, stuff like that. When you're a good player, you enter the game with almost no information, and your goal is to acquire information. So, from my perspective, I wouldn't prefer to be good or evil. Either one is a fun thing. What I prefer is an attention, an attention. I do prefer attention. I'm going to be real about that. I like to be the main character, but I prefer an information gathering role to a passive role usually. Um, and my nightmare situation is a once per game. That's my nightmare situation. The second I pull a once per game, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a high anxiety game for me. So,
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, my next question was going to be what kind of characters you like to play, but I guess we've got a sense of that.
My favorite evil characters are probably all the like low stakes ones. I don't love being like Scarlet Woman because it's that mix of like, sure, I could out myself, but if I out myself, that's very high risk. Whereas something like Baron, you can sort of play chaotically when you're Baron. You can just sort of do Baron or Godfather. It's like, what's the big deal? I've already sort of done what I'm going to do. Now I just have to be a chaos gremlin and just like confuse people. And if I ended up outed evil, I can play with that as well. On the good side, I love any madness as a good player. I love being pixie. I like being mutant. I know that's a weird one, but I think it's fun to be mutant. Um, Damsel is high stress for me. Huntsman is high stress for me. Oh, it's just rough. Yeah. Something like Savant, I do enjoy. Savant and Amnesiac are fun for me. That's like, I'm looking right, of course, right now I have the script that we've pulled up, Laissez-on-Faire, open, and I'm like,
Right.
of course I like this script. I would be happy to be any character on this script except artist. Don't make me artist. God. I'm going to use it first day if it's artist, just to get it out of the way.
It's just funny because if it's me, I would probably want to be artist because for me that's less low stakes. You know, use it at the right time, and yeah.
Yeah, no, the terror. Fisherman and artist both are terrifying for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we always do like asking people about madness, so it's always fun to hear people's opinions on madness. I believe most people tend to like it.
I think some people have a heart, like for me, I go all in on madness usually. Every now and then it's like, well, I gotta break it at this point. I have to break. I remember one game where I was mutant in Final 3, and I was sitting there and I was just like, I should not be in this Final 3 because he didn't say anything and there's like all this sus on me. And I remember getting a DM from the storyteller that was like, watch your mouth because I'm looking at you and I can see the expression on your face. And if you step one step out of line, I'm going to kill you and end this thing. And I was just like, I can't say anything, guys. But generally, like being a pixie savant is so fun for me. I am going to make up the most convincing savant information you've ever heard as pixie savant and absolutely ruin the game until it's outed, Yeah.
I ran some in-person games yesterday as of this recording, and it was sex and violence for most of them. The last game was an 8-player game. Sarah Novus made somebody mad as a mutant for every day in the game. Both the Sarah Novus and she was actually the mathematician, and it was a Vortox game, so I was giving wrong information. And going from 4 to 3 players, there were no more characters alive that could learn information, so I gave her a 2.
Yeah.
Because basically, I was like, you can't. I didn't tell her this, but basically my thought process was, you can't out that 2 is an obviously bogus number. But at least you can try to work with that information, even while you're claiming mutant. And good team ended up winning too. So
I played another game in Vegas that was, I'm trying to remember there was a Scarlet Woman and a Cerenovus, I'm pretty sure, were the minions. And the Cerenovus made their own demon mad as the mutant. And they did a ploy that was the demon outed that they were mad as the mutant and died and star passed to the Scarlet Woman.
Mhm.
And it completely won the game for them. It was a beautiful play. But also in the final night, I was like, wouldn't it be really funny if at the end of this it were revealed that the Sarah confirmed player who outed and died was actually the demon star passing? And I was like, well, we lost this one, but at least I figured it out. Like,
Right.
we lost it, but I was like, that would be a great play. And if it happened, I'm not mad about it. And
Right.
it happened, and then it had happened. Just a
Uh,
great play. Loved
yeah,
that.
those kind of high risk, high reward ones are, yeah, they're fun to watch. Sometimes they crash and burn, but if you can pull it off, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've definitely crashed and burned on a few of them and had some people very frustrated with me in the past.
What kind of characters, other than Goblin, I guess, do you like to bluff, whether you're good or evil?
What do I like to bluff? Man, I don't know. Um, I like to give a 3 that is a thing the demon would like to kill, a thing the demon doesn't want to kill, and a thing town doesn't want to kill. Like, I like to give a 3 that's very varied, because otherwise I feel like it conveys too much information about if the demon should kill you or not. Bluffing. I like to. I don't know. I don't know. That's a hard one. I'm trying to think of it. I
Yeah.
don't generally like to bluff as. I know what I don't like to bluff as. I don't like to bluff as juggler or gossip. I I do not like to have to come up with fake juggles and gossips around square. It's just too much work to hold on to. I don't like holding on to like town crier or anything that requires me to take extensive notes. I'm just like, I'm turned out. I'm gone. I'm recently diagnosed ADHD. Like, I don't have it in me, my friends.
That's fair. Uh, something I was thinking about is you mentioned your 3 for 3s, which obviously is still very common. I've long ago stopped doing 3 for 3s. I'll only do either hard claims or 2 for 2s. And recently, I've given thought to, and maybe this is me buying into my own brand too much, but I thought about just stopping doing 2 for 2s and just doing nothing but hard claims. It doesn't have to necessarily be true hard claims, but just something I've
Yeah,
thought about.
I have a saying that I open up when people ask what I want to do. And what I say is, I'll do whatever you want to do, but the larger the number, the more likely it is that one of them is true.
I
So,
like that.
like, if you want a hard claim, we can hard claim, but there's a good chance I'm about to lie to you if we're going to hard claim. Um, and part of what, like, obviously that's always true, but I like to say it that way because I feel like it helps cut the personal quality out of it. Because a lot of times people take it very personally when you lie to them in a hard claim, but that's part of the game. And also,
Right,
like, in
yeah.
a hard claim, there's a good chance I'm about to lie to you, friends. Like, because the thing is, if I were the demon, I'm going to lie to you. So I can't have my behavior be drastically different when I'm good than it would be as the demon. Because if I do that, then you're going to know. You know what I mean? Like, if we play now and every time I'm good, I hard claim my good role to you, truthfully. And every time I'm evil, I lie to you, you're going to know. You're going to know.
Right,
So sometimes I have to lie to you when I'm good for the long con, you know.
yeah. Well, it's useful too because I mean, there's just reasons for good players to lie. You
Yeah.
know, I play so often that tons of people are lying for the first day or couple days. Then they usually kind of start reverting to like their actual claims. But it makes it harder for the demon to know who actually they need to kill because did that person who claimed fortune teller, are they actually a raven keeper, or it's yeah, or vice
And,
versa.
well, and also, the other thing I think that's interesting to think about is that when you lie in your hard claim, it's not always just a lie, right? Like, if you are the huntsman who's claiming damsel,
Right.
there is a logic to that. And often you can convey information with your lying hard claim that is still truthful information and is still useful for town. So I think that's like if you're a washerwoman who saw a librarian who saw a drunk, well then implying that maybe you're the drunk, or if you're a washerwoman who saw a tinker, I that's a play I like to do. Like if I'm a librarian who saw a tinker, for instance, I'll go up to my pings and be like, "I'm the tinker," and see how they respond,
Right.
because the actual tinker is going to be like, "No, you're not." You know what I mean? Yeah.
I've seen that happen so many times where I played a game, I think it was last month on the TPI stream. My neighbor claimed town crier or something, some character that gets information. And I talked to somebody else who put town crier in a 2 for 2. I was like, oh, I've heard hard claims of both of those, and they look real suspicious. Basically, it turned out there's a pixie thing going on there, but that made me trust him quite a bit. That he thought that he was like
Yeah.
that doesn't sound right. That you've heard of another one of these.
Although on the flip side, I have had players come up to me and give me a 2, and I have responded to them, "Well, I know you're the first one because I'm the second one," when I was not, in fact, the second one. And then they just sort of go with it, and they're like, "Oh, well, okay, I trust you then, because you're the second one. So I'm going to
Yeah.
give you all the information as the first one." And I was like, that was a 50-50 chance. I could have said I was the other one, and then I would be dead right now. But, if
I've
it
I,
wins.
I've been on the second person on that equation before, where I just kind of give up way too easily. Where somebody's like, "Oh, well, you must be this one." I was like, "Okay, yeah, you got me. I am."
Yeah. Yeah, I like that play. Shit. Everyone who watches this is going to have all of my ploys outed now. Oh, well.
One more note on hard claims is I do have a script idea. I get many script ideas that I rarely ever finish, but nevertheless, I have a script idea that basically has an optional rule where people can only do hard claims. It doesn't have to be true hard claims, but I thought it'd be interesting to have a script designed around. If you're telling somebody a roll, you have to tell a roll and not like a 2 for 2 or a 3 for 3. And I don't know, just thought that would be interesting to see how that played out.
I mean, I'd play it. I would absolutely play that.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's got stuff like mutant on it, Sarah Novus, damsel. Reasons why people, good or
yeah,
evil, would
my
just
God.
just do a hard claim that's not true. And yeah,
I'm
that's
trying
it.
to think what else I could put on there.
Yeah, I have like a starting like layout. I can't remember everything on it, but yeah, lots of reasons why people would hard claim something that's not their
Fangu.
actual
Just
role.
put Fangu on there.
Penguin might be on there. I can't remember, but that would be a good one. That would make sense.
Yeah, keep all the outsiders from claiming.
All right. Well, we like to do a section here where we go over what I tend to think of as "quote unquote" divisive characters to see what people think
Hmm.
about them. It's usually good, good discussion. So the first one on this list, it's the only base game character. How do you feel about Snake Charmer?
So I never want to be the snake charmer. I absolutely. I had a game where I was the snake charmer who snake charmed the demon on night 1, and we were not playing the whatever his name is, the rule where
Oh, the Leho rule.
Alejo. Yeah, we weren't
Yeah.
playing Alejo, and I went up to one of my minions and like asked him, and he gave me all his information. No, I was snake charmed night 1. I was snake charmed night 1, and I went up to my demon and my minion and got all the information and just outed it. And it was a day 1 re-rack. And my feeling on snake charmer is that I think it would be a better character if it were an each night star role.
Yeah, I've
Because
heard
I
that before. Yeah.
I just feel like every night 1 snake charmer is not fun for everyone involved, except specifically the snake charmed demon. It's the only person it's fun for.
That's fair. I know a lot of people who will just kind of refuse to out it for a few days just to make sure everybody does kind of have more fun. And yeah, I
Yeah.
could definitely see the argument where you don't want to purposely hamper yourself to make everything more fun. But yeah, it's a yeah.
I don't really like the Alejo rule because it just like it's
I
not
don't either. Yeah,
but I think that a day one snake charm is worse than the Alejo rule. So I think just an each night star would improve it. Except for one, there is one circumstance where I think Snake Charmer is absolutely amazing, which is Steve has a script called 123 Not It. I don't know if you're familiar with what you're familiar.
yeah,
It's the Oops All Snake Charmers script.
yeah.
Multiple snake charmers can snake charm multiple times. They can
The
snake charm
the
recluse,
the Snake
lunatic.
Charmer plus plus. Yeah,
Yeah, the Snake Charmer plus plus, and it's just so stupid. It is not Clocktower. It is some sort of stupid performance piece. And you're about to ask me about Atheist too, and I'll go off on that as well. But yeah, that's when I like Snake Charmer, when it's just goofy, good fun, and not when it gets taken seriously. I think. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, you said it was going to come up, and it was. So let's go ahead and talk about Atheist. How do you feel about that?
So I again in Vegas. So in Vegas, I participated as the atheist in an atheist game. And I think it was one of the best implementations of atheist I have ever seen in my life because I don't think atheist is good I think it's fun. I think it's fun as a performance piece, it's fun as a social event. I don't think it's a good game mechanic. I don't think it's fun again when people are taking it seriously. But the atheist game that Day ran at Vegas, I was a plant. I was an absolute plant. I had been taken ahead of time and told that I was going to be the atheist in this game and that they wanted me to play it out and that they wanted me to do certain things. They told me what they were going to be disguising me as an evil character. They told me who my demon was going to be. And that is sort of the definition of breaking the rules from the very beginning, right? Because
Right.
atheist lets you break rules. The storyteller is going to break rules. But because I knew ahead of time that I was going to be the atheist, and I knew something very fun that they did that I don't want to out like publicly because I want them to be able to do it again. But as a result of having been a plant in this game, I was able to participate not quite on a storyteller level, but on a level that made sure that everyone was having a good time playing, that let people play out a couple days before I started revealing my information, that let me like slowly reveal things to people instead of it just being like an evil, I don't know. I don't think atheist is fun as an evil bluff. I think in an atheist game, town should win 100% of the time,
Mhm.
whether atheist is in the bag or not. Um, I don't feel like there should ever be a situation where town kills the storyteller because they think it's an atheist game when it's not, or when they don't kill the storyteller. Like inevitably, it should come out if it's atheist or not. And in that case, I think it can be very fun. It can be fun to explore how breaking the rules is a slow reveal, but it has to be a slow burn. It has to be just right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
tricky. I've heard pitches, and I don't know if TPI would ever consider this or not, but I've heard pitches of making atheist a demon that basically nobody draws an atheist token. I'm curious what you would think about that if that were a thing.
So killing the atheist would also win the game.
Basically, there would be no atheist. It would just be basically an atheist would it'd be almost like a little monster where nobody is a little monster. It would just be like everybody has a good character and it's an atheist, and but nobody knows it for sure. It's hard to say if it's a good idea or not, but I'm just curious if you had a take on that.
So instead of having a demon, there would just be no demon, and that's what would
Yeah,
make it atheist. Interesting.
yeah. Basically, it removes anybody claiming atheist or needing to bluff atheist.
I could see that being potentially successful. I don't know. Again, I think the most important thing in an atheist game is that the storyteller's event, over time, it should become more and more and more obvious that it's an
Right.
atheist.
I agree
It
with that
starts
too.
out real subtle, and then it has to build until there's no longer, in my opinion, any question at all, right? Um, like one of the things that the storytellers did that's not a spoiler for this game during this game is that someone introduced themselves as really liking cats, and they were the recluse. And every single night, the storytellers woke up the recluse to show them a cat picture. And it didn't like impact the game, but also the recluse was like, is this a thing? Like, why are they waking me up? Like, I'm happy to look at these cats, but like, why are they waking me up to show me cat pictures? This doesn't feel like a normal game. And so stuff like that is, you got to do stuff like that, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I forget where I was going with that. Hopefully, I
That's all
said
good.
enough words.
It's all good. We're just chatting.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's think about another character here. How do you feel about Poppy Grower?
I think Poppy Grower is very, very interesting character. I like it best when it's Poppy Grower and Pixie Poppy Grower, even if Pixie isn't in the bag again. I think having both is very good for town. I don't know. I find it interesting. My favorite implementation of Poppy Grower is definitely Little Monster Poppy Grower, just because, like, where are you going to send it? You know? I mean, I like Magician too for that reason. But the script has to be set up right for it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I
How? Oh yeah. Go
Goblin Poppy Grower also great because the
ahead.
Goblin just outs as Goblin, but also people like me just out as Goblin even when they're not the Goblin. So can you even trust the Goblin claim? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Next character here. How do you feel about Heretic?
I am not a Heretic fan. Um, I just it just so drastic because you never know, right? Evil is never going to know Heretic is in play. They just never are. The last game I played, I was an evil play. I was a minion who was seated. I was the devil's advocate seated next to the saint. The saint outed himself to me night one, and so we got the saint killed, and it was a good win because it was a heretic game. And it just feels like a letdown, sort of, because just like there's you never know how to play. I don't know. I don't love heretic. I don't love heretic. No,
Yeah. Is it
for me.
fair? That's why we put it on the divisive list. 'Cause
Yeah, it is. It's
some
interesting.
people
I
like
feel like
it, some don't. Yeah.
it's the first one where I'm like, I really don't want to play in a heretic script. I don't think I want to just. I have a lot of anxiety. I'm a human being who has a lot of anxiety, like millennials are. Um, and there's something very that makes me very anxious about not knowing if it is or is not a heretic because I am one of those people, we talked about it. I'm one of those people who's going to do sort of a big all or nothing play. And those they become double or nothing in a heretic game. You know what I mean? And I don't love to gamble. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
Yeah.
All right. One more character for this list. How do you feel about Legion?
I think Legion is cool. I think it changes the way the game feels. Um, my personal feeling on Legion games is that they should be shorter, not longer than regular games, and so there has to be a boldness to it. But I haven't played a whole lot of Legion games, and I haven't played a lot as Legion either. I think it's cool though. I think Legion is cool. Yeah. I like it. I would do it. I would play Elite. Look, if you offered me a game tomorrow and you offered me a Legion script, I think I'd say yes. And if you offered me a Heretic script, I would say absolutely not. No, thank you.
Definitely fair.
Yeah.
Most of these characters, or at least like Legion, Heretic, Atheist, they're all kind of stuff that for me it works best when they're rarely run. Like you
Yeah.
just kind of want it sometimes to be those characters around. If
Yeah.
you like them at all, if you don't like them, then you don't want to be any. But
Yeah. I mean, my general feeling about Clock Tower is I think 90 times out of 100, let's say 90 times out of 100, I would play TV or TV Plus. I love a TV Plus one. Like, just add one script, one character. If we want to play with a different character, let's just run TB plus that character, and I'm pretty happy. So, yeah.
All right. So we have one more section here. I like to call it this or that. We'll just name two characters, and you answer however you see fit. The question's purposely open-ended. All right. So first one, we'll go with fortune teller or empath.
Fortune teller. With
teller?
fortune teller, you can move it around, so you're not just trapped between the same two people. And I don't know why, but it always feels more urgent for me to stay alive as empath, despite the fact that in the end, I think fortune teller is more powerful. Empath really has a lot of limitations and a lot of reasons why the demon would keep you alive. But I still feel like fortune teller. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think you might not like this next one. Savant or amnesiac?
Oh my God. Okay, so here's my answer. Amnesiac if we are playing with a homebrew rule that lets you keep guessing after you die. Because being able to keep guessing after you die means that the game never really goes stale for you. Even it doesn't even like really change the game. It just makes it so you still have something you can do afterwards. If you don't have the keep guessing after death rule, I would probably say Savant.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. I know a lot of people really like that homebrew rule.
Mm-hmm.
Both are very tough characters for me to run.
I mean, I don't want to run either. God help
right.
you. Although there is the tool Mike built, which is the Savant. He built a Savant info tool that you can just refresh the page, and it gives you potential Savant info. And I feel like that could help with Savant.
Yeah, that's true.
At least, especially a drunk Savant. Right.
All right. Next, a couple characters here. We have a lunatic or goon.
Goon. Goon. You know what you are when you're goon. I like to know what I am. Not knowing what I am stresses me out.
Fair.
And also, then you get to choose to play for evil. Who doesn't want that?
All right. I know a lot of people who end up trying to play for evil, and it just like never happens for whatever reason. They're like, well, okay.
The pits, yeah. It's like being an outsider in a Fangu game, and you're like, please, if you're the Fangu, tell them. I want to be the demon.
Yeah, it's funny because I have a lot of players who are like, I'm an outsider, please kill me day one so I don't become the Fangu.
I always out immediately as outsider, and I almost always, when I am the outsider in a Fangu game, I out as outsider immediately day one. And everyone's like, either that's a lie or you're already the demon. And I'm like, no, it's just, it's too stressful. I'm just going to do it. It's fine.
I like that.
Works out for me, so.
All right. We had a player for, there's a little while where he just kept being outsider in Fangu games, and he would tell everybody, I'm an outsider, go ahead and kill me. And they're like, no, you're a good player, let's not kill you. And then he would get jumped to, and he'd get to the final three, and he would somehow make it and win. We had like several games in a row, like in a short period of time where that happened.
I love that. Yeah.
All right, next couple here we have, and I picked all these before we started talking, of course. So some of these might seem a little more obvious at this point, maybe, but it's good discussion points anyway. We got mutant or politician.
Mutant. I would rather be mutant. I really do like being the mutant. I think mutant is fun no matter how you play it, because I think a day one hard claim is mutant, and either being confirmed or not confirmed is fine. I think hard claiming a role that you're definitely not, to cover it up or just because it's fun, is also fun. With politician, you never know. Again, politician feels similar to heretic to me, except it's only you. So you never know personally which team you want to win. And it all depends how the storyteller runs it as well.
Yeah.
I bet Brian had an interesting answer to that one.
I almost feel like that's a politician should be one I put on the divisive characters list. I just don't actually
Yeah.
see it played very often, I guess. I don't find it very fun to run, but
It also does, like, it puts a lot of onus on the storyteller to determine, and also the storyteller
yeah.
can't be everywhere at once. So maybe you did something in private that the storyteller didn't see. Probably you should send a message to the storyteller if you do that, but yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
All right. So next couple are here, and again, this might be obvious at this point, but with Goblin or Summoner.
Hmm. I think Goblin still. I would still like
Okay.
to be Goblin. Um, Partly just because any script with Goblin on it, Goblin is the character I want to pull. Like that's the token I want to pull anytime Goblin is on the script. But also, I do. Summoner is another of those once per game abilities. It's just like really stressful, but it's stressful with the added quality that if you don't survive till night 3, if you don't survive 2 days, you've lost. You've just lost, and that sucks. That sucks because, and yeah, that's rough.
I know you said you don't really consume Clocktower content, but I was in the character reveal game for Summoner,
Uh
and I
huh.
pulled a blue token, and Patters was on the unofficial Discord, and somebody said something, and he saw too much information, and we had a re-rack.
Oh
I pulled a
no,
Summoner token. I got executed on day 2.
that's so harsh. It's
Yeah,
so harsh.
and Ben Burns says, I think this is the first time we can't put the release character stream on our YouTube.
Yep,
I'm
that's
like,
harsh.
cool. And he
Oh
didn't have time to run another one because the Grimoire stream was coming up after.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it kind of worked out in the sense that they ran that script multiple times, and every time it just didn't produce a game that they felt was good for YouTube. And then they did the script competition, and one of mine and Taylor's script won. And when that game was ran, that was the game they put on YouTube. So felt a little vindication for that.
And also, like, that's great because in a way it kind of revealed that there were some problems with that particular script, maybe.
Yeah, you know, not to harp on people too much, but yeah, I had a few qualms with the script. But yeah,
And you know what? The thing is, sometimes you just don't know until you run it. You can't always know if a script is going to be good or bad until you run it.
yeah,
Like, sometimes a script seems like a really good idea, and then you play it once and you're like, that wasn't great. And sometimes a script, you're like, this is the stupid. 1, 2, 3, not it. Snake Charmer plus plus. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Everyone has a good time every time we play it. So,
right.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So next couple of characters here we have Organ Grinder or Vizier.
Ah, I think Organ Grinder. I like Chaos Gremlin rolls, and that is the ultimate Chaos Gremlin roll. Um, it's just great. I like the new Organ Grinder that can choose to be poisoned, so it looks like they died and then they didn't die. Is also
Right.
nice. Yeah, I really like that quality because it makes it easier to bluff that someone who's died is the Organ Grinder. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think I have a strong opinion either way, but I know a lot of people really don't like the change.
I really, having played in a game, we had an alchemist organ grinder, which I don't think you should ever alchemist organ grinder, but that's my first. I just don't, because like the
I
thing
think that's
about
fair. Yeah.
it's better now because before, if you were alchemist organ grinder, just kill yourself. Just get yourself killed immediately because it's so bad for good. Being able to turn it off makes it a little better. But I don't know. I kind of like the turn off ability. I think it just gives it a little more flexibility. I'll have to play with it a few more times, but I do
Yeah.
like it.
And how do you feel about Vizier? Because I know that can be, for some anyway, be kind of a divisive thing.
I just, I've never played as the Vizier myself. I've only played in a handful of Vizier games, and they always feel very Vizier focused. Like the Vizier sort of makes the decision in a way. I don't know. It's not my favorite.
Yeah,
It's not my
fair.
favorite. Yeah.
All right, start moving to some demons here. How about Leviathan or Poe?
Leviathan. Leviathan spreads it out a little bit. It scares players. I don't know, actually. I do also love Poe. I I had her switched into Poe once from Vortox, I think. And it was just a great play because you can immediately sleep and no one knows what's going on. It was, hmm. No, I'm going to change it to Poe. I'm going to change it to
Okay.
Poe. Yeah, I
I
like
do
Poe.
think they're both fun demons, and they're fun in different ways. Yeah.
And they're both really scary for town. I find that they're some of the scariest demons for town. Because one wrong choice just blows you out of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, one more here. We got Leech or Puka.
Oh, definitely Leech. I think I would prefer Leech. So Leech is one of the demons that I feel like really transforms the game in a lot of ways because it goes from trying to kill the demon to try and figure out who the demon is hosted on. And there's a lot of fun to be had with like figuring out who someone would have chosen as, first of all, who they would have chosen blind to be their leech host, and then like using the information you have to see who's likely poisoned. Yeah, I like leech.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago I ran a game. It was a Leech game, and lots of different people were having suspicion thrown on them. Except, but the player who was actually the Leech host made a public comment. It's like, it seems like everybody's getting pushed on except for me. And in my head, I'm like, that should be your clue. And
I mean,
you know what? Good end up losing that game.
I also, of course, love any situation where I get to play Outed Evil, except Vizier, which is maybe surprising. But I do really like being Outed Evil. And in a Leech game, there's definitely a way to play as Leech where you are outed as the Leech and you just
Yeah,
lean into it and you just like nominate your own Leech host because it's goofy, and that's one of those high risk reward situations that can go so wrong but also can reward you in the end, stuff like that.
yeah. And I think I've started to lean towards preferring scripts where a leech doesn't have a way to hide. Where if they're executed and don't die, then it's just, well, that has to be the leech, and there's no other possibility.
Yeah.
So I think that's still fun gameplay, at least for anybody who's okay with being Outed Evil. And our group handles Outed Evil players pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's more interesting than having like 4 different ways where it's like, well, are they the leech? Are they not the leech? Well, we should double tap them to see if they still die, and et cetera, et cetera. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, one last question before we go here. So looking at this script here, Liao's unfair. What character would you like to be in real life?
God, in real life? Well, in real life, I am an artist, so I don't need that one. I mean, in real life, I think I would probably like to be the amnesiac just because I want a superpower. I would love to have a superpower of some kind. And
Superpower
like,
that you don't know what it is?
yeah, talk to someone who just like, yeah, a superpower, being able to do something that no one else can do. That's part of what's so great about, and of course also the fact that if you are the amnesiac, you are pretty much always the main character on whatever script you are. Like the amnesiac is always the main character, and I want to be the main character. So
It's fun too because everybody wants to help you with your abilities.
yeah.
Sometimes even evil players because
Oh yeah. If I'm evil, I always tell the amnesiac, like, even if I'm evil, I will help you figure out what your ability is. Like, you can tell me if you want help figuring out what your ability is, because I want to find out. It's a puzzle. I love puzzles. I do so many puzzles. Oh, that's what I know. So,
there you go.
yeah.
All right. Well, before we go, is there anything you'd like to plug?
I mean, always the Grimoire, but you've had some of that recently. And since we're talking about puzzles, how about I plug one of my other big hobbies, which is Puzzled Pint? If you like puzzles and you want to do some puzzles once a month, it's puzzledpint.com. It's a nationwide chain. The people who create the puzzles are different every month. They're sort of like word or logic puzzles. Individual cities run their own in-person events, or you can go online. The event happens the second Tuesday of every month in person, and you can download the puzzles online on the following Wednesday. They're all print-out word logic puzzles, sort of like a puzzle hunt solved to one word. Very fun. I run the Savannah, Georgia chapter, doxing myself a little, but that's okay. So it's fun.
That's fun.
See if there's one in your city. Go patronize them in the positive way.
Cool. All right. Well, MacKay, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for chatting. I love chatting about stuff all the time.
I love chatting about Clocktower, which is why we're here. All right. And thank you all for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode of Hard Claim. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.